welcome to Ladyada.
Hey everybody, it's me, Ladyada, and with me is Mr. Ladyada. It's time for the desk of Ladyada. This is my desk. It's kind of a mess, but it's okay. I got some electronics.
Yeah.
Who's not loving it? Summer in the city, doing electronics.
We went outside.
It was great. I got a little sunburned.
Yeah.
We had a great brunch. We saw people in person. It was amazing.
Yes.
Okay, but yesterday I did a bunch of electronics before we went out, and so I thought I would show off some of the projects I did. First up, I got my RP Nano Connect. Hold on, box. Let's go to the overhead and I'll show this off. So yeah, I got...
Arduino is also using the Raspberry Pi RP2040 chip. We got one. And
yes.
We're going to make sure it runs CircuitPython.
Right, so this is... I have to remember how to use this thing. Okay, so this is a RP2040 Connect. So this is interesting because Arduino is kind of traditionally known as... It's traditionally known for using... SAMD core series, AVR series, very... I mean, they have a couple STM chips here and there, but for the most part, they're very, microchip focused, and so it's kind of cool to see them joining forces with Raspberry Pi using the new RP2040 chip, which we think is a sweet-ass chip, on this board, the 2040 Connect. And so I ordered one as soon as they were available, and they showed up yesterday. And the neat thing about the RP2040 is built-in ROM bootloader, and we've got great support for it in CircuitPython. This board also has a Wi-Fi chip. This is a Nina. Why isn't this locking? Okay, hopefully it should lock in. So this is the U-Blox Nina 102, which is an ESP32. It's like the tiniest ESP32 module. It's just adorable with the built-in flash. It's got this 3D antenna, which we actually talked about 3D antennas, I think, on a Desk Ladyada a couple months ago. It's got the RP2040 here. I mean, it's got like a 201 component. It is so small. These little microscopic parts. It's got a PDM microphone here. You can barely see it. This little gold spot here is the PDM mic. Reset button, I think it's an RGB LED, one yellow LED, a green power LED, power circuitry. This is flash memory, so it's got, I think, 16 megabytes of flash, and the RP2040 chip, and then it has also a gyro on it, by the way. And so Liz, BlitzCity, got hers like a day earlier, and so she put in a PR to add support for CircuitPython. I collaborated with her. I just fixed a couple typos for the CI to be happy. And I tested it out, and it works. And so I did a couple demos. If you check the PR in CircuitPython, where I merged in support for this, I have two demos. One that prints out the gyro data, because we have a driver for the built-in gyro, and it just works. And I also wrote a Wi-Fi demo, which is neat, because the driver we have for the ESP32 Airlift, it's the same firmware. We use the same firmware as Arduino, so it would make sense that it would just work. So I did a demo.
Right. And so let me just, before you show the demo, let me just tell everyone, Adafruit is not saying to go out and buy cryptocurrency. When we do these demos, we need to find an API that's anyone could just cut and paste the URL. It needs to be HTTP, so it's not HTTPS. It needs to be accessible. It needs to be available. It needs to have something that when you look at the price or the data you get back, like a stock price, for instance, or in this case, cryptocurrency, you could say, oh, wow, that's crazy. I remember when.
And the JSON data has to be small.
And it has to be a small thing.
Yeah.
So the problem
if you have another API that does not require a key, does not require SSL,
so
changes constantly so you can make sure it's working.
So we do demos with new stock
and small JSON output. Let me know.
Yeah. So over the last 10 plus years, and then in former lives, including me, the demos that I would do were new stock weather. Now, when there's something like a stock ticker, it's not endorsing the company. You're just showing you can get data in with this stock ticker. So here's the thing. We're not saying buy Dogecoin. It's a joke. Please don't melt down.
I personally don't even think it's a good idea.
Please
don't do it.
Please don't melt down and blame Adafruit and or more personally for global warming because we're showing this demo.
It's just a demo.
That's my disclaimer. Okay. Show the demo.
Great. So this demo, I'm demonstrating I2C display I/O because I wanted to test a whole bunch of stuff. it's using I2C to connect to the OLED, display IO to do the font thing, because it's using this custom Comic Sans font, connecting to the internet, getting the data, and then displaying it all in CircuitPython. So this is a really good all-in-one demo because I wanted to, test SPI, I2C, display IO, font handling, file system, like all the little things are tested. Looks like hopefully, if you did own it, you sold it before you lost like all your money because it went down from even earlier when I ran it. So this works. So what's neat is if you have an RP2040 Connect, you can definitely run it in Arduino, and Arduino has Arduino core support for this. If you want to run Python on it, I know for a fact that you can use it with the Wi-Fi and the sensors built in. If you want to use it with MicroPython, I'm actually not sure. Well, first off, display IO, the display stuff won't work because that's a core CircuitPython thing. The ESP32 SPI stuff might work, but I'll be honest, we haven't tested it with Blinka, so it's a little iffy. If somebody wants to try that out, though, try following Melissa's guide that she just wrote on how to install Blinka onto MicroPython boards. Like, we'll load MicroPython onto this, load Blinka onto it, and then try running our example code. It might work, but I don't know. But it does work in CircuitPython, and I'm so psyched. This is so cool because I have no plans to make a board like this that's all in one RP2040 sensors and Wi-Fi. Arduino did it. Go buy their board. It's awesome. It's very, very, very small, and it's a good price. So I personally like having ESP32 as a Wi-Fi coprocessor. I know some people are like, why not just use it? But I think the native USB is worthwhile. I mean, like, instead of a USB to serial converter for the same price,
choices are good.
You get a microcontroller. Great. So that's that. So I got that working. One thing I will say to note, there's no boot 0 button, like the button that lets you get into the bootloader. So you have to wire it up. It's not too hard. There's just like a jumper here. You can even use a little piece of wire to jumper it while you plug it in to get into the bootloader the first time. Okay. So next up, all right, any questions about that?
No, I
Okay.
appreciate our community who's like, they're all cool with this. They're not blaming you personally for like the deaths of owls and seals and oil spills.
Personally, I don't really get crypto. I don't get it, but
Yeah.
whatever,
That being said, if someone knows of a demo that shows how easy this could all be in a very quick way, we're always looking for ones. We do weather, we do currencies, we do
No, but whether you
news.
can't, but whether we can't get to without an API key, it has to be an API
Yeah.
that requires no key.
Yeah.
Even a free one, because the whole goal is like people have to be able to test it without having to go and like register for an account and get your now your data is being collected.
Yeah.
So it's I don't understand why, but cryptocurrency price APIs for some reason, the ones that I've seen do not require an API.
Yeah,
key.
one
I don't
thing
understand,
someone
but
pointed
so it
this
is.
out. One thing that we do show as well is we do our quotes demo. We have quotes off of our website. And so
I do the quotes demo a lot.
Yeah, and we do that quite a bit. The request that we get is, can it do like real-time updated data? So we're like, oh yeah, sure, there's this silly Dogecoin thing here.
But it's not a number. I like that when it's a number that is changing, whereas the quote you have to get a different one. I don't know. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
I do both demos.
Yeah, so we do
okay.
do that.
Next up.
What was the name of the? Can you hold the box up? What was the name of the Arduino product?
It
is the Arduino Nano RP2040 Connect with headers.
Yes. Oh, also, I think our quotes requires SSL. That's why I don't use it. That's right. And I want something without SSL because SSL causes other problems. Okay, so this is a revision I've done for the STEMMA Friend. So this was a little like debug pal because I'm constantly getting I2C devices and I'm like, what I2C address is it? And is it working? And do I have the right pinouts? So I designed this it's like a year ago now, and it was with a SAMD21, and it's got like STEMMA QT ports and USB-C and a little battery port and a little button here, and a larger port that could use with Grove. And this worked. It worked just fine. But the problem is the SAMD21 just didn't have a lot of RAM in it, and so it definitely this would not have been able to run CircuitPython, which was kind of like a bummer. But I wanted to keep the price low, and I also need to be a fast enough chip to do I2C sniffing, because one of the things I want to do is not just address scanning, but like actual data sniffing. And so I kind of was like, I kind of hemmed and hawed on this, and I was like kind of like working on it, and I was like, well, I could do it with the SAMD51, but then the chip is really big, because they don't make small SAMD51 chips. Like this is a SAMD21E, I think. Yeah, so this is like the little, mini, I think it's a 4x4 chip, maybe 5x5. So I put this aside. The hardware was working, but I was kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna wait on this. But then with the RP2040, I was like, ooh, I can remake this now, and I can remake it with this new fancier chip. Now the chip is a little bit bigger, but it was still kind of worth it. I just made the board just a little bit taller to account for the chip and the flash memory, and it made me fit another button in. So there's a user button and a reset button. Yeah, I made them both a right angle. The improvement of having it be an RP2040 is now it has a ton of RAM, which is awesome because I can do stuff like frame buffering, which I'll show you. It's also fast as hell. It's 130 megahertz. So compared to the SAMD21, which is like 48 megahertz, the GPIO is fast enough. I can do very quick reads. So again, I can sniff. I want to be able to sniff basically 400 kilohertz I2C and have the data output. So you can do like logic analyzer type things. And so I'm using the Philhauer Arduino core. And so this is just a demo of it with the I2C scanner. And you can kind of see barely. It says 44. So this is this keeps touching pins. But when the pins aren't touching for this this sensor here, it's scanning and it's showing that this is a SHT30, I think, is the sensor inside of it. So this is just me doing an I2C scan test, and if I disconnect this using these little cables, it goes away. So it's just an I2C scanner, and then I can plug sensors in over I2C and detect it. I also have I was doing some stuff over the weekend. So what I did, so I'll put this into bootloader mode. So when I started, and this is not a ding on the core, this is just a common thing. The the SPI core was not really optimized. So if you wanted to draw to it, so this is just drawing like red, green, blue. You can see you can actually kind of see it drawing. Like it's fast, but it's not crazy fast. Even though this is running at 32 megahertz, because it's sending like one byte and then it's just waiting and then it returns and it goes another again. It works perfectly well, but it does one byte at a time. What you really want to do when you're displaying to a screen, especially when you want to write a whole frame buffer, is you want to give it a buffer and say write all this data at once, like one byte after the other, with no delays in between. Sometimes you have to use DMA for that. In this case, the Pico SDK has support for sending a buffer up at the Arduino coordinates. So I'm working on a pull request to do that. So when I do that, so I can memorize, it's like, okay, it's like, about 2 hertz. It takes about a half second to redraw. If I load up my fast SPI demo, you'll now see it's actually so fast that it's kind of freaking, like you can't, it's starting to tear before it displays the image. So it's drawing now at about 30 frames a second, I think is the speed. So much faster. Like it's actually looking it's kind of freaking out a little bit. But in person you can see it goes red, green, blue so fast that it goes, it's being, the display's tearing. The display's updating slower than the data is being pushed to it, which is good. That means you're sending data fast enough. So what that means is that I can do frame buffer projects, which is what I mean is the display, instead of drawing to the display, which is very time consuming, I draw to a gigantic chunk of memory, and the RP2040 has 260 something K of RAM, so I can buffer the entire display 2 bytes times 240 times 240 in, and then blit it all at once, and I can like do stuff with IRQs where the blitting maybe happens in the background. Let's see, so my demo's running here, and that'll let me have really smooth motion of graphics, so I can do things like plotting, and I won't get like weird flickery effects, which I don't know. Why have those if you don't need them? So this demo is actually a UART scanner. So what it does is it can read UART data, but it actually autobauds. So when I connect it up, it will use the GPIO to read pulses coming out of this GPS, for example. And it will measure the pulse widths for like a couple milliseconds, and then it'll calculate like, okay, what is the baud rate it's sending it. So let me do this. So in this case, I just don't think it's gonna go in, but you can kind of barely see it. So this is automatically detecting 9600 baud, and it's displaying the NMEA data, which is coming out of here. It's really tiny text, but I think for just debugging, like just what baud rate is it? What data is coming out of it? Is it even running? I think it could be really handy. I also got the same thing going with a Raspberry Pi. So, as you know, because I wanted to test, will it work with 115 kilobaud? So this, I do have to reset it. So let me reset this because it's like it needs to redo the autobaud detection, and then plug in the USB here. Let me see if it works. Yeah, so you can see this is it's printing out like system D and starting device, and it's very tiny, but you'll have to just believe me that you can see the startup messages from the Raspberry Pi show up on this little console screen. So yeah, not as good as like a computer console, but better than nothing. So those are the two things that I worked on this weekend. Oh, also Mr. Ladyada really wanted me to. Oh, no, it says like login Raspbian. So like if you want to just like, what's the IP address? Is it booting?
Yeah,
this could be handy. It's just very small. It's hard to read. But I wanted to make this a small little helper. So I got some tubes because Mr. Ladyada wanted me to do a VFD Trinkey.
So we're doing a limited run of some Trinkies of parts that we know we're not going to get a lot of, and we're also not going to make a lot of. So we're calling them, again, this is the joke, NFTs, not forever Trinkies.
Yes.
It's not digital. We're not selling digital anything.
You should not buy digital artwork on a blockchain, guys.
Well, maybe I don't know. I don't have an opinion about that right now.
I do.
But what I'm saying is we're calling these NFTs not forever Trinkies. So we're gonna have a little like mini ice tube looking thing.
Yeah.
We're calling them NFTs. They're not actually NFTs.
You do not use cryptocurrency.
There is no burning of the icebergs for this.
And we're only going to make like 10 of these because I can't get these tubes. I only have like 10 of these tubes. So anyways, these are VFT tubes, and they get 20 volts. So we'll have to like make a little boost converter.
Right. Let's go to some questions.
Ask you questions.
Is the speed up approach just for video, or can it speed up any I2C protocol with lots of data? Perhaps
it can do both. I mean, the RP2040 is just a massively more powerful chip than the CMD21, and so I'm glad I waited. It's a little bit like, okay, so it took me like a year to wait for this chip, but it's the much better chip, and also there's much more storage. It could do things like auto detect what sensors connected. So I want it to be like a little like debugger helper. Like it's something I personally want because I'm constantly like, what's the I2C address of this? What's the UART data coming out of this? Like I want to sniff UART data, and like doing that is so annoying. Bidirectional I2C data is so annoying to sniff, so this would be like a little helper. And I like the Selays, but the Selays are just they're out of some people's budget, and I respect that. It's like I'm not going to tell people go buy knockoffs. I'm going to say like I'm going to design something just for I2C debugging because there's so many people who are like I just want to sniff I2C and verify like so many platforms I'm working with now have like repeated start, or they don't do repeated start, or they always do repeated start, or they don't knack the same way, or there's like a delay. I actually need something to help analyze I2C, and something I can give people in the field to do as well. So having that code will be helpful.
And for the STEMMA Friend, yeah, we were doing a SAMD one, and now we're doing a RP2040.
Yeah, the original was this. It was a SAMD21, but it was just really, and it worked for I2C scanning, and I could even do a little bit of I2C sniffing, but it was just underpowered, and it would never run CircuitPython. It just couldn't do it. So this is now. It looks very similar.
All right.
But it's just better.
And a couple of folks are going to mortgage their houses to buy NFTs from us.
Okay, if it's like a little like dollhouse, maybe.
The reality is, our not forever Trinkies are probably going to always retain their value.
I know.
It's an excellent investment.
Okay.
All right.
Collect them all. Okay, so I think that's it. Oh, and there's one more thing. So a long time ago, I also designed a SAMD21 based circuit pirate. You can see the.
Was the serial monitor in Arduino or CircuitPython?
This is an Arduino. Oh, because and here's another thing. So the scrolling text, by the way. So I forgot to actually talk about the thing. So having the text scrolls so smoothly, it doesn't look like super smooth, but it's quite smooth. You have to do that with a frame buffer. Like, there's no way to, in the TFT memory, erase it. And you're probably like, well, Ladyada, don't you know that you can scroll the TFT display? Like, it has internal scrolling capability. Yeah, but I wanted to have, like, a header at the top that had information about the baud rate. And I'd probably have a footer as well. So it's like, once you're doing that, it's like, just spend the extra 10 minutes. And the RAM is free. If the RAM comes free with the chip, if I have the RAM, use the RAM, buffer the whole display. Blitting it looks great. And also when I get to the plotter, I wrote this plotter code a while ago for the clue, which will run well on this as well. You can't scroll it because the plotter is a sub image with a not gradient, like a dots in the background, like a gridded background, called like a gradier or something. I don't know the name of it, but you can't use the built-in TFT scrolling. Believe me, I was like, I can use TFT scrolling. I looked at it, I was like, oh no, I actually can't use the built-in TFT scrolling. I have to do it in a frame buffer. So
okay, you're going to show those PCBs. Also, someone tossed in the idea of Proto Trinkey.
Proto Trinkey. Oh,
yeah.
Yes, this is Circuit Pirates. This is actually really old. This is now like, I think this is like a 3 or something year old project. So I really liked the bus pirate, but I wanted one that was programmable in CircuitPython. Like it had the same pinout, but it wasn't like you wouldn't use it with the same software. It would just be something that you could use in a similar way, but you would script it in Python. Because one of the things that I've always really wanted, well, now I have a solution to it of my own, but standalone chip programmers are just like, they're either like $3,000 or you build your own. Like there's nothing in between. And I thought this would be neat if we could make, a little debug tool that could also be a standalone tool. So similar to this, but have more GPIOs and have like switchable power and like all, I think this is like all level shifted and everything. So I did this with 7021 and I actually got, another thing is you need to have a separate UART terminal if you wanted to like code it. I actually got pretty far and then ran out of RAM and with the SAMD21 like 3 or 4 years ago. And I was like, oh, I should probably do this with the SAMD51 and I put it aside. But again, I think the RP2040 would be an excellent choice for this chip because you want something with really fast GPIO and a ton of RAM, especially if you're doing data captures. Like if you want to do a logic analyzer, you want to be able to like capture a ton of stuff and then, on a trigger and then send that back up to the computer for analysis. And the RP2040 has enough RAM to do not a huge, but a significant chunk, 10 times as much as the SAMD21. So Circuit Pirate might actually come to life. Very old PCB.
All right.
Is there a date code on this? There's not a date code.
It's
old.
Is it great search time?
It's time for the great search.
All right.
Where in the world is that part I need? The great search with Digi-Key.
Okay, the great search brought to you by Digi-Key. Thanks, Digi-Key. Every single week, Ladyada uses her powers of engineering and smarts to go to the Digi-Key site and find all the things you need. This is especially helpful for part shortages when you have to do things like substitutions and more. But this week, we were on a mission because we're making a bunch of keybs. And
well, people were asking. So I got a request of like, so someone on our team was like, I've seen these really gorgeous keyboard cables.
Yeah.
Which again, I'm not endorsing or not endorsing spending $100 on a keyboard cable. I was just personally curious what is up with these, and they're like, oh, they use these cool aviation connectors. And I was like, well, what is an aviation connector? And so I did a little bit of research, and they often use Lemo connectors or sometimes like the YC8s or something. There's a couple of variations. But Lemo I remember Lemo connectors. We used them in the media lab for our wearable computer stuff. We would have the twiddler on a Lemo connector in there, so if it got caught on something, you could easily detach it. And so I thought I would first show off these cables, but also look. There's people who are, if you're doing projects and you need a really, really good push-pull connector, like nothing really beats a Lemo. They're amazing. They are not inexpensive, but they're very high quality. There's a reason they are often used, as you may guess, for aviation.
I do understand why folks will spend time and effort and energy to make a beautiful keyboard, because
they're beautiful.
Because you might be using this thing 8 to 10 hours a day. Like, what other thing touches you 8 to 10 hours a day? Maybe your phone?
Pillows. I have a really nice pillow, by the way. Like, I got a really nice pillow, like, kind of somewhere in the middle of the pandemic, and it's really helped.
Yeah. It's not from the My Pillow guide before.
It's not
before someone gets honest about that. Anyway,
no, it's
so I can understand why folks like these, because it sits on your desk. It's probably in your living room or in the most intimate place in your home. There's this keyboard, and so I understand why people do this. And I think one of the things,
this is a really beautiful one. I was just googling. I was like, oh my god, this is gorgeous.
I think one of the
glowing
things,
purple.
As a community, we can, like, the Adafruit community is fine, but I think one of the things outside of the community is, like, I think there's a tendency to, like, make fun of folks and say, like, oh, you're spending all this money on this. So what? Like, it's this thing that you use all day long. Like, if it's something that brings you joy and you built it yourself, like, that's fine. It's cool. Like,
these are cool.
Yeah. Anyways, so
I mean,
we wanted to find out more about these.
I'm curious about them. But you can get them pre-made, and I will say if you're not an experienced solder or cable maker, it's a good idea to do it. This is just more like if you were personally interested in using it for other stuff. It's a similar connector to this. So if you look online, so this is one that actually uses a proper Lemo connector, and you'll know them because they have these little red dots and these grooved connectors. So you see that the cable is coiled, and then you can quick connect it. You can change out the contacts. So these are usually 4-pin cables because they're using USB. So let's go to Digi-Key. And so let's look for, you could actually just search for Lemo, although I'll show you how to find the whole category. There's actually a lot. They're actually called circular connectors. And you can look, so the only thing is that there's like a ton of stuff that Lemo makes. Like they make, even though they're called Lemo, it's a little bit of like the Kleenex thing. That Lemo is the name of the company that makes them, not the name of the connector itself. Even though the moment somebody said a Lemo, free wire connector, I was like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about, because they're really nice. It's actually something more like this, right? Like that's what it looks like.
Yeah,
so,
you can go to lemo.com/Ian. Someone dropped that in the chat.
Dude, you can.
Yeah, they're called medical connectors, which is like
these are amazing. These are
cool.
These are like they're so enjoyable to use. Okay, but let's look for active, and let's look for we want free hanging, and we don't want panel mount. We want them the ones that panel mount would mean that one side is a panel mounted and the other side pulls out, which is fine. But we don't want that. We actually want free hanging, which means that they're in between two cables, so they are literally free hanging. Which, if you think about it, is like the kind of the most stressful thing a cable can do, right? Because it can get caught, it can get yanked, it can get twisted. There's two sides that are very delicate. So that's why these cable connectors are
cool. Someone made
expensive.
Custom cables for their brother for their birthday.
Oh,
look at that! And so that's cool.
Those are cool. I wonder how you coil the cables. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go look for the inline cables. Next up, there's still like 14,000. I mean, there's tons of these. I know that we kind of want these, right? But let's show how to pare it down to get to them. So the next thing is how many positions we want. Now, there's a lot of options. 114. I gotta see what's 114 connectors. What is this unholy? Oh my god! This is. Look at this. This is nuts. Okay, I don't know what you would need this for, but if you did, I guess Digi-Key's got it. You can use them. But we're not going to go for 113. We're going to go for 4, and we're not going to do 3 plus 1 coax. We're going to do, I don't know what quadrax is, but let's just do these 4.
To make the custom cables, you coil it with a post and then heat gun and a lot of patience. That makes sense.
A lot of patience.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna try to make one of those.
I think we should. We've got these nice woven cables. I wonder what will happen. Okay, so next up, let's, you can get different colors, but you can start looking at these. So these are like basically when people talk about Lemo. They have different series numbers, and the series numbers is how large the cable opening is. So actually, why don't we make one that'll fit this cable I have here? I didn't plan that, but. Just grab my multimeter, my Mitsutoyo calipers. So I'm going to measure the diameter of this woven cable that I have. It's like maybe this cable is the one I'll Lemoify. So you measure the diameter, and it's 3.7 millimeters, 0.14 inches. So this is done in, it's kind of like in inches. And there's always like a little bit of a range. So, about 0.14. So let's look at the cable openings. So you can do this one, this one, this one. There's a couple of, let's see, 1, 4. Okay, so these are the 0.14s. Maybe we'll do this 1.46 because that's the max. Yeah, and I want it. You want it to not be. You definitely don't want something larger because it'll be floppy inside. Okay, so let's apply. So now we've got only 330.
I guess folks use these for lightsabers too.
Yeah.
Lightsaber
Okay. Cool.
connectors, yeah.
Okay. I don't care too much about the shell finish, although if you care, go for it. So fastening type. So push, pull, and detent lock. I don't know detent lock, but definitely threaded is what you think. You thread it on. Whereas push, pull, which is what a lot of people like, there's actually a little like sleeve on a spring, and you pull it to detach it, and then you can snap it back on. Again, very luxurious. So let's do push, pull. Didn't really reduce the number any. And then next up, let's just see what's in stock, because that's actually going to cut it down a lot. All right. So basically, we've cut it down, and we can look to see like this is
nice.
These are glorious. Let me see if they have a version that has a 3D. They have a 3D model, but this one shows you all the content. So when you get these, it's a kit. Okay, and this is one side. You need 2 sides. Don't forget, both sides are required.
I guess there's a request for a STEMMA.
Yeah.
4 is perfect. We can make STEMMA QT to Lemo to make it waterproof.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, you could. So you can see that this is the plastic bushing that holds the 4 contacts. There's a shell. This is the spring load part. This is the back part. This is you can see that there's a little bit of a groove. This is what grips the cable. So this is what you get for the cable grips. So in general, there's different families. So what I did research is there's different family series. From 00B, which is the smallest family, literally the thinnest, to 0B, 0E, and up. I'll say most people use 0B. That's kind of the most common, but 00B is also available. They're just literally much thinner. Like these are very thin. They might be a little tougher to put together, so it's up to you.
Can you go back to the keyboard picture on your browser? Yeah.
This
This is
actually not a Lemo though.
I just wanted to show this is where this is what it looks like, where it kind of ends up.
Yeah, this is what. So this is actually a really good image, although it's a little bit dark. By the way, view image was removed from my browser, and I'm going to go and I'm going to murder some developer for removing view image. I have to install a plugin to use view image, and I'm really upset about it.
Depending on the browser I use, I have all these plugins to get functionality I used to have back. That's weird.
Yeah.
It's like little patches.
Yeah.
That come. So, anyways.
Anyways.
So this is what it looks like.
So this is what it looks like, and you can. So this is you need both sides. Don't
Yeah,
forget.
that's cool looking.
It is. This is really cool looking. No, these are just like
This is neat.
they're so cool looking. But like I just wanted because I know people always get like oh it's an audio file. It's just because it's cool looking, which I actually really respect. They're not like oh this makes you type faster. They're just like it's just really cool looking, which it is. So yeah, but also the Lemo connectors are really great. Anytime you're doing if you're doing a project that is that needs quick connects that are really durable and dust proof, and I don't think these are waterproof. They do make versions that are, but really connectors are the things that take down projects. I've not seen anything destroy a project faster than bad connectors. So good connectors are good.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the one that most people are using, the 0B series FGG. Chances are, if you see somebody making a keyboard with a Lemo connector, they're going to be using this.
Okay, how much are they each?
They're $22.
Yeah, sounds about right.
So,
but here's the other thing, and let me just say this.
But they're really nice.
If you're making your
really
own
nice.
keyboard, and this is a piece of art, and you're going to have it for years, that's pretty cheap, considering how long you may have it, and you bring...
It is a very...
Yeah, anyways.
It's a very nice connector. And then don't forget, you need the other side.
Yeah,
so
sure.
sometimes they have the mating connector on the back here. At the bottom here, they show you the mating side. So there's panel mount mate and other. So you'll also need one of these. Just FYI. You'll need both. They're really amazing, though, I will say. So there you go. This is Lemo connectors, great for keyboards, but also great for other projects, including, I guess, medical and aeronautical engineering.
Yeah.
That's the great search.
All right.
Lemo.
Where in the world is that part I need? The great search with Digi-Key.
All right, some questions.
Yes.
Do they need an additional special assembly crimping tool?
No, they don't. That's a very good question. Thank you for asking. They are solder cup. I should have mentioned that, but they are solder cup, which means you do not need to crimp anything. You just have to be very careful assembling it. I will say it's not a bad idea to use
Heat shrink?
heat shrink over
Yeah.
the solder cups.
Yeah.
Why not? But
Okay.
you don't technically need it.
All right. Bill is back. Hey, Bill.
Bill.
Bad connectors have killed a lot of magic wheelchair projects is true, especially...
If you're doing if you're doing
If you're doing
accessibility
wheelchair stuff,
projects,
you should-
wheelchair stuff, these connectors are really good.
Okay. Someone asks, I have lots of those VFD tubes and would love to buy a board to drive them. Any options, opinions, suggestions? I'm going to say
Look
check
at-
Tindy.
Check Tindy and Etsy because I did see a lot of people doing a lot of VFD type projects. eBay too. I got these on eBay, to be honest. I've got a 10-pack of these. These are Russian tubes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Any other?
I'm just going to let folks know about something that's coming up. I got the okay from Siemens. They're going to let me interview them.
Yes, it's true.
They bought Supply Frame, and part of
Yes.
that purchase was
Tindy.
Tindy and Hackaday.
Yeah, Hackaday.
And so, disclosure, I started Hackaday a million years ago. I have nothing to do with it now. I'm pleased that it's still around. I'm curious what they're going to do with Hackaday. So I'm going to interview them and find out. So that's that.
Okay.
Okay, during the week we have all of our shows.
That's right.
Tuesday is Product Pick with JP.
Yes.
On Wednesday, Show and Tell and
We're back.
Ask an Engineer, fully back,
Yes.
fully vaxxed,
Fully vaxxed.
fully unmasked now. Yeah.
Maxed, waxed, and unmaxed.
Yeah.
Maxed.
And then on Thursday, JP's workshop. Also, one day before that, 3D Hangouts with Noah and Pedro on Wednesday.
Yes.
And then Friday Deep Dive with Scott. So we have a full week of
Yes.
shows. We have a ton of stuff coming
Comms
up.
Lab every day
Yeah.
ish.
And
5:30, right when you need it.
that is our show for tonight.
I got my bubble tea.
I want to say thank you to everyone in our community who's super chill and they're supportive of each other, regardless of the project you're working on. Everyone makes something, and there's lots of things that we can do to help each other. And I'm glad that we found each other in this community. And it's been a long year, and things are coming back. For the first time in over a year, we had lunch with someone
It was amazing.
It was weird.
We hugged them.
Yeah, it was super weird. And
it
so,
was okay.
And so,
we were permitted to.
yeah. And the restaurant, you had to show your vaccination card.
Yes, and they thought ours were cool.
Yeah, and it was not a big deal at all. It was actually just like, oh yeah, hey, how's it going? Oh, here's the thing, and you know, it was cool.
Yeah, you wear a mask in the restaurant until you get to the outside table. We sat outside, and it was cool.
If folks are around the world and you're like, you know, what is normalcy? When is going to happen? You know, you can get used to anything really fast, and I'm getting used to this again. And I'm thankful that we're able to see people.
If you have access to vaccinations, please get it.
Yeah.
It's great. You're just tired for one day, but then...
I just got stronger.
But you got stronger. I had a weight lifted off of me, so I didn't get stronger. I just had less stress about it.
All right, so that's our show. We'll talk to everybody. Thanks for coming by. That was this week's Disc of Ladyada.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.